Don't play with it, don't be dishonest.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Hands Down podcast, where we talk sports hands-free with your host Javid Wardell. Super excited to be here with you guys today. Before I jump into today's episode, I gotta give two shout outs. I gotta shout out Houston, and I gotta shout out Florida. Obviously, gotta shout out Florida, the Gators, for winning the national championship, March Madness. They were such a fun team to watch. They played such amazing basketball, specifically in the second half, I would argue, moreover. But if there's one word I could describe to describe that Florida team, it would be resilience. They played such resilient basketball, specifically coming back in the Elite Eight, coming back in the Final Four, and then coming back in the national championship. They was trailing by 10 plus points in all those games, found a way to come back and win those games. Shout out the Gators for winning. And then I got to shout out Houston. I wrote Houston off. They Geno Smith my ass. After they struggled against Gonzaga, end up winning that game. I said they wasn't going to beat Purdue. I said they wasn't going to beat Duke. And let's be honest, Duke, they should have lost to Duke. Duke had the hardest sell job of this century. But Houston ended up getting the win, and I got to shout Houston out for getting to the championship. Played really good defense up until that second half, until they performed their best Duke impersonation and selling the championship. But that being said, got to shout those two teams out. Excited for today's episode. We're going to be talking some basketball. There is two games that separate the Western Conference 3 seed, which is the Los Angeles Lakers, and the 8 seed, which is the Minnesota Timberwolves. Yes, you heard that correctly. Two games that separate them. It is absolutely wild. And two teams decided to fire their coach amidst that, so because that makes sense. And then we're going to shift into baseball. Baseball has started. I've been depressed as a Braves fan, but hey, we're get better. We just got Sean Murphy back. He hit a 3-run dinger in his first plate appearance, so I have that to look forward to. But we saw some contracts recently get signed in baseball. We saw Jackson Merrill sign his 9-year, $165 million extension with the Padres, and then we saw the Blue Jays actually pay Vladdy 14 years, $500 million. We're going to talk about contracts in baseball. It's absolutely crazy, the contracts that are given out. If you guys are new here, though, like I said, this is the Hands Down podcast, where we talk sports hands-free. Leave a like, leave a follow if you're new, and let's dive into today's episode. Brother, what is going on in the NBA right now? This NBA season has been absolutely wild. Luka Doncic being traded, Anthony Davis being traded, 63 players during the trade deadline being traded. De'Aaron Fox got traded, Jimmy Butler got traded. Like, this NBA season has been absolutely wild. And then earlier in the year, we saw the Sacramento Kings fire their coach, Mike Brown, who had won unanimously Coach of the Year a couple years back, and they canned him because of a bad start. There was some speculation that it was because of Mike Brown's relationship with De'Aaron Fox. After Mike Brown had been canned and De'Aaron Fox was traded, reports came out that they was actually fine with each other. They even went to dinner oftentimes, and there was no bad beef there. But this NBA season has been absolutely wild, because we saw Mike Brown get fired after leading his team to the playoffs for the first time in forever. He just signed DeMar DeRozan this year. And you're in a wild, wild west that includes the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Houston Rockets, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Warriors, Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Mavericks. How do you expect to contend and be on top of those teams without having that 1A type of player? I'm sorry, De'Aaron Fox was not that 1A type of player, and Domantas Sabonis is not that 1A type of player. And this NBA season, it just continues to get crazier and crazier, because later on in the year, with 9 games left, the Memphis Grizzlies said, hey, Taylor Jenkins, you're not a guy. We're bouncing you. You can't beat a team over 500. We're going into the postseason. Every team's going to be above 500. We need a coach who can win us some playoff games. Which, hey, I get that one. After doing some more research on that one, I kind of stand that, okay? Taylor Jenkins is a really good coach. I think he was one of the most winningest coaches in Grizzlies histories, especially for the past 3-4 seasons. But they couldn't beat Golden State Warriors. They couldn't beat Los Angeles Clippers. They couldn't beat a Thunder team, a Rockets team, a Lakers team. Heck, they barely beat the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavericks that game had 8 of their players not playing. They Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, Kyrie Irving, obviously with his ACL injury. Nobody was playing, and they barely won a game against a Mavericks team that had nobody on their roster. So I get it. You're like, okay, if our roster can't do this, we probably shouldn't. We probably don't have the right guy in place. But I don't necessarily think that was all Taylor Jenkins' fault. We've had the on and off injuries and then court issues with Ja Morant. Ja Morant only knows how to do gun celebrations and play ball. And don't get me wrong, I love Ja Morant. Ja Morant's a fun player, but like the drama that he had with his, obviously, Instagram going live on there a couple of years back, and then his 25 game suspension last year, and then this year he's had multiple. He got fined the second time he did it when he keeps doing gun gestures, and he's just not learning his lesson. And like, I'm all for a good time, don't get me wrong, but like, clearly when it's a personal matter to where you've been warned multiple times, like, you got to know your limit, right? And I get why the Grizzlies kind of got rid of Taylor Jenkins in that sense, but Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. has been battling injuries this year. Desmond Bane's not been the healthiest this year. And keep in mind, this was a roster that they tinkered with, and they tried to find out what players was really good, like a Jalen Wells, who can be really good and has been really good. But last year, really bad roster, really bad team because of all the injuries. I'm pretty sure they literally had like 55 people that suited up for a game last year. So are you really going to blame that all on Taylor Jenkins, though? Because they still haven't figured it out in a West, again, that consists of the Lakers, the Mavericks, who at the time when healthy are a good team, the Clippers, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Nuggets. Like, are we really going to do that? And then the news broke about the Denver Nuggets. The Nuggets fired Coach Mike Malone. And not just Coach Mike Malone, they also fired their GM, Calvin Booth. I'm in awe. I'm in shock. I'm flabbergasted. I'm bamboozled. Let's talk about it. So, first and foremost, I just want to take a second to look at the Western Conference standings right now. We are 4 games left in the NBA regular season as I record this April 9th. There's about 3 to 4 games left. The East is all set up. That's okay. Let's take a second. Let's look at the East. The East is all set up. We know what teams are going to be in. We just don't know the seeding yet. We know Cleveland's the 1 seed. We know Boston's the 2 seed. New York is the 3 seed. Indiana most likely is going to be that 4 seed. Milwaukee's going to be the 5 seed. Detroit's going to be the 6 seed. That's the one that's up in the air. Those could flip-flop. Detroit could get the 5 seed. Milwaukee could get the 5 seed. Milwaukee could get the 6 seed. Those are kind of up in the air. But they're both going to be in they're not going to fall into the play-in. One of them is going to be the 5 or 6 seed. And then in the play-in, you have the Magic, you have the Hawks, you have the Bulls, and the Heat. As for how those teams are going to seed in there, it doesn't really matter. They're in the play-in, and I don't think any of those teams deserve to be in the playoffs. Let's look at the Mavericks. The Mavericks, maybe. I'll give the Mavericks the benefit of the doubt. They lost Paolo Banchero early in the season because of an injury after they started off hard. Then they lost Franz Wagner to an injury. And then they've been battling with Jalen Suggs not being able to play, right? So I kind of will give the Magic the benefit of the doubt for still being 39-40 with dealing with Paolo being out, Franz being out, and Jalen Suggs being out. But they're 39-40 and they're about to be in the play-in. They're like I said, 2-3 games left. They could finish under 500 and still be in the play and still be in the playoffs. Then the other 3 teams below them will finish under 500 and are going to, 2 of those teams are going to be in the play-in/playoffs. All of them in the play-in. The Hawks are 37-42 right now, and then both the Bulls and Heat are 36-43, and both of them are going to make it in the play-in playoffs. We have a team in the Western Conference that is 46-33, and that puts them at the 7 seed, at the 8 seed right now. If they had that record in the East, they would be the 5 seed. But like, it's just absolutely crazy how stacked the Western Conference is compared to the Eastern Conference. Like I said, we already know what teams are going to be in there. It's just a matter of the seed. I think there's been some reports now that Dame might come back and actually play this year. And I really hope he does, but I really hope they're also not I'm not going to say forcing him back too soon, but having him come back too soon to where he ends up getting more pain or something else happens where he's going to have surgery on it long term or be out more long term than it would be short term. Like, and also looking at this roster with Dame and Giannis, and were they healthy, do I trust them to get past a New York Knicks team, a Boston Celtics team, a Cleveland Cavalier team? I don't know. But I hope they play their cards right with Dame. But the Western Conference, we know the Thunder are the 1 seed. They're 65-14. The Rockets are the 2 seed. We know that. They're 52-27. The Lakers right now, the 3 through 8 seed is a toss-up. Okay, ready? Listen to this. The Lakers are the 3 seed right now at 48-31. There is a 5-way tie between the 4 seed, the 5 seed, the 6 seed, the 7 seed. A 5-way tie. The Clippers are 47-32. The Nuggets are 47-32. The Warriors are 47-32, and the Grizzlies are 47-32. All of those people are within the game. The Clippers technically have the tiebreaker right now, so they would be the 4 seed if the season ended today. But right below them is the Minnesota Timberwolves at 46-33. There is 2 games separating the 3 seed and the 8 seed. 2 of those teams will be a play-in team, keep in mind. 2 of those teams of the Los Angeles Lakers, the Los Angeles Clippers, the Denver Nuggets, the Golden State Warriors, Memphis Grizzlies, and Minnesota Timberwolves, 2 of those teams will be a play-in team. Whereas if you put them into the Eastern Conference side, both of them would be in the playoffs. They would be a top 6 seed, top 5 seed. But since they're in the Western Conference, there is 2 games that separate them, and 2 of those teams are going to be in the play-in. That's a team that consists of Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. That's a team that consists of Anthony Edwards. That's a team that consists of Ja Morant and Triple J. That's a team that has Luka Doncic and LeBron James. That's a team that has James Harden and Kawhi Leonard. And by the way, we're not even mentioning the Phoenix Suns, who have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant and probably aren't going to make the postseason. They're sitting at an ugly 35-44 right now and would practically have to win out. Dallas would have to lose out if Phoenix wants to make the postseason. That's just the play-in. That's not even the postseason. But yet, during this crazy time of the West being so stacked, these teams being so competitive, 2 games apart, we see the Kings fire Mike Brown early in the season. We see the Grizzlies fire Taylor Jenkins late in the season, 9 games left. And then with 4 games left, the Nuggets said, hold my beer. I can do one better. I can almost one-up Nico Harrison and trade Luka Doncic. But instead, I'm going to fire my head coach, Michael Malone, with 4 games left in the season. And keep it, their goal still is to win a championship. And you're going to fire Mike Malone? That's crazy to me. Now, I will say, I've done a lot of, it makes sense. Mike Malone and their GM, Calvin Booth, did not get along. Heck, there's been some reports that saying they didn't talk to each other for days, weeks, months on end. And that's probably a very toxic environment to have for your organization when your head coach, who's trying to coach your team to a championship, and your GM, who's trying to build that team to the best championship contending team that they can be, is not on a talking basis, on a day-to-day basis. That's probably not the smartest thing. That's probably not the greatest thing to have. So I can see why the Nuggets ownership said, hey, okay, you know what? I'm not going to take Calvin Booth's side, the GM side, and I'm not going to take head coach Michael Malone's side. I'm just going to say, y'all are both out. I get that. But there's been some speculation that the players didn't like Michael Malone. And I think it's because Michael Malone is a old-fashioned head coach. He's going to hold you guys accountable. He's going to call you out on your bullshit. And I also think he's the best coach out there for Nikola Jokic. Even amid their 4-game losing streak, which I think is a big reason why Michael Malone got canned, is because their chemistry has been awful. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. He's put up 60-point triple-doubles. He's put up big triple-doubles in the past couple of games, and he's getting the L, and he can't do it all. I understand Jamal Murray's been injured. I understand Aaron Gordon's been out in and out of the lineup because of injury issues. But can you expect Michael Malone with just Nikola Jokic to carry that team simply by himself and simply with Nikola Jokic? No, you can't. The Grizzlies couldn't do it with Ja Morant, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Desmond Bane. How do you expect Michael Malone to do it with just Nikola Jokic? Yes, Nikola Jokic is probably the best player in the world, but he doesn't have that surrounding team around him. The reason the Oklahoma City Thunder are so good is because, one, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 20-plus points for, 70-plus games now this year. But if you take him out of the lineup or if he doesn't play, Jalen Williams can step up and play. Chet Holmgren can step up and play. Isaiah Hartenstein can step up and play basketball. Other Jalen Williams, we got J-Dub and J-Will. He's been playing really good small ball 5 for them. Lou Dort is a great defender, one of the best perimeter defenders out there. Alex Caruso, one of the greatest perimeter defenders out there. They are actively out there as one of the best defensive teams out there, one of the best perimeter defensive teams out there, and they have a really good pace that you don't need them to do that. When the Nuggets have Jokic out there and when he goes off the court, especially when Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon aren't playing, bro, their offense is abysmal. Abysmal, I tell you. Abysmal. And I just find it shocking that you say, okay, Nikola Jokic can't do everything, so we're going to fire Michael Malone. I'm bamboozled by this. It makes no sense to me. Like I said, I get that him and the GM haven't been in much connection with each other, but if your goal is to win the championship now, isn't Michael Malone the best shot you got at winning the championship? You're telling me that Michael Malone, who's the most winningest coach in Denver Nuggets history, who has been one of the most successful coaches in the past 4 or 5 years, and oh, by the way, brought you a championship back in 23, you're telling me your best chance to win is if you say, Michael Malone, pack your bags, and get the fuck out. I find that crazy. Because now you have interim coach who's going to come in. He's not going to, we already saw this with the Grizzlies. The Grizzlies, when they had their new coach come in, they lost their first 3 games. The West, I read you the standings in the West. There's 2 games that separate the 3 and the 8 seed. The Nuggets don't have 3 games to fuck around with. The Nuggets don't have 1 game to fuck around with. I get it, you've been on a 4-game losing streak, but you're like, okay, let's bring in a new coach who, okay, he's in the system and he's been highly talked about. So yes, he knows your system and knows a lot familiarity with them, and you didn't want to lose him to a big market team out there next year for nothing, I guess. So you wanted to give him the chance. But you want to give him a chance when the stakes are this high with 3 games left, 4 games left. And if he loses you 1 game, that's going to cost you the 3 seed, the 4 seed. Heck, it could cost you the playoffs. You could be in the play-in. You don't trust Michael Malone enough, a guy who brought you that championship? That's wild. It's absolutely wild. The other thing is the speculation with the players and not liking Michael Malone. Because he kind of is a hard ass, but that's exactly what we need in the NBA, especially with the way that the NBA is going, with how much player empowerment we have. Michael Malone called out his entire team the other day saying they don't watch film, and saying, or if they do, they don't watch enough of it, or they're actually not really watching it. He's the head coach. What else do you expect your head coach to say? Oh yeah, our guys, they really tried hard this game. They didn't, if they watched film and if they would have done stuff, guess what? They probably could have been more accountable, or he's holding them accountable, and they probably could have known more things about the game that was coming up, because guess what? That's what you watch in film. But since players aren't watching film, and he's then getting the heat for these players not doing their jobs, the jobs that they're getting paid $20, $30, $40 million at the end of the day to do, I find it wild. And it makes me wonder, because there's a stat up here. Nick Nurse, he won the championship with the Raptors, 18-19 season? And he got bounced by the Raptors, right? Raptors went into a rebuild shortly after. Nick Nurse no longer there. He's with the Philadelphia 76ers. So one coach who won a championship, he got fired shortly after, 2-3 years after winning a championship. Frank Vogel won it with the Lakers during the bubble year. Shortly after, gets fired for Darvin Ham coming in. It's 2 coaches who brought your team a championship. And I'm saying I get there's players on the teams there too, but the coaches play a very big role inside of that. Outside of the Frank Vogel, because you have a LeBron James and Anthony Davis on your team, so you probably can do almost anything with those players. But just saying, Frank Vogel was part of LA getting a championship. Let me rephrase. He gets canned shortly after, was with the Suns, and you guys can see how that's going. Mike Budenholzer did it with the Bucks back in 2020. He's with the Suns now, and you can see how that's going. Like he got canned shortly after because Giannis wasn't able to make it back. He hasn't made it back to the championship series since that 2020-2021 season. And now Michael Malone winning it in 22-23, getting canned 2-3 years later. Like what is the direction that we're going of NBA coaches? Like how does, at that point we're saying the only 2 safe coaches in the league is Joe Mazzulla and Mark Dagnall of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Because I guess they're not going to have 4-game losing streaks. Heck, if we're just firing coaches based off 4-game losing streaks, why didn't we fire Kenny Atkinson after the Cavaliers had a 4-game losing streak? Because you do not fire a coach that late into the season. It's like the trade deadline. If you cannot figure it out by the trade deadline, okay, yes, you can your coach, or you trade a player. But if you go past that trade deadline, you're generally committed to that team, to that coach, to that organization. I'm bamboozled, because both the grit, at least with the Kings, they did it early in the season. They gave more time for whatever ownership, and that ended up being Doug Christie coming in to get a system around him, for Domantas Sabonis to learn the new system that Doug Christie wants to learn, for them to go and trade Zach LaVine coming into a system that Doug Christie has already created. And I at least get that one, right? For DeMar DeRozan to fit into something that he's already familiar with. But to do it with 9 games left and 4 games left in this NBA season, and your goal at the end of the day is you still want to win that NBA championship, but yet you're firing your most winningest coach out of there because he doesn't have the locker room trust, because there's so much speculation and drama because he doesn't get along with the GM. It's absolutely wild. It's absolutely crazy. At this point, why don't we fire coaches to teams that don't tank properly? If the Jazz and the Wizards aren't tanking right now and I can't get a high draft pick, what's that to say that we're not going to get rid of Will Hardy? We're not going to get rid of all these other coaches who are actively trying to lose. Like the Raptors are actively pulling. They're tanking so bad. They're pulling their team, their starters when they have a lead, when they can put it back in the fourth quarter of a close game to make it be a competitive game. Like I don't know what the NBA is anymore. Like it makes me wonder how long. Like obviously Greg Popovich hasn't coached much of this year because of health reasons. How long is he going to coach when he comes back? Obviously he should have the respect of one of the greatest coaches of all time, if not the greatest coach of all time. Him, Eric Spoelstra, and Steve Kerr. But everybody else, they're just, hey, you don't have the trust of the players. Players don't like you being accountable. Players don't like you calling them out because they're not watching film. So goodbye, because that makes sense. I truly think coming into this postseason, the Denver Nuggets won't get past the first round. I understand you have Nikola Jokic, probably the best player in the world on your roster, but Michael Malone was the best coach for Nikola Jokic to have. We've already seen during their 4-game losing streak that Nikola Jokic can't do it all. Jamal Murray's still not back and healthy. Michael Porter Jr. he's Ben Simmons out there shooting bricks, or he's occasionally the Michael Porter Jr. we know him to be. Aaron Gordon, when healthy, is really good, but he's been battling so much injuries all season long that we don't know what type of Aaron Gordon performance we're going to get. Christian Brown has actually been really good for them, but down the stretch, he's not been playing the best ball. And again, this is a Western Conference that is 2 games separating your 3-seed Los Angeles Lakers at 48-31 and your 8-seed Minnesota Timberwolves at 46-33. I find this wild. I don't necessarily know what the Nuggets are doing here. The one thing I will say that does benefit the Nuggets is their interim coach who is coming in has had a lot of praise, and he's supposedly going to be one of the next great minds in the NBA, right? And I guess the speculation is you didn't want to lose him to another team when you had him on your as an assistant, right? And you're like, okay, you know what? We've already seen the progress with Michael Malone since the championship year. Obviously, we've not been back to where we want to be. So that's enough for us to say, let's start over, but still be competitive. That's the only thing I can think of. I still find it wild. I still find it crazy. Like, Doc Rivers is still a coach. And Doc is a great coach, don't get me wrong. But, Doc's only won a run with, the Celtics back in 8-9. He if Doc Rivers is still a coach at the end of the day and Michael Malone is not, that's crazy. That's something that is absolutely crazy. I'm intrigued and I'm excited to see how this NBA season is going to pan out and end with, like I said, the Lakers, the Clippers, the Nuggets, the Warriors, the Grizzlies, and the T-Wolves all being 2 games apart from each other. I want to see the Clippers get that 3 seed. I would like to see the Clippers get the 3 seed. I would like to see the T-Wolves somehow win out, get that 4 seed. I don't think they would because they literally have to win both their games and everybody's about to lose. But I'd like to see the Clippers, the Warriors avoid the play-in. And I would like to see the Lakers losing out and the Nuggets in the play-in because at that point, that's what they deserve. Lakers just because I'm a hater and Luka and LeBron's on that team. And then the Nuggets because you're trying to win. You were the 3 seed a week ago. Heck, you were the 2 seed a couple weeks ago. And you lost all player trust and you fired your coach for no reason. Bamboozled. I'm shocked by this. But if that's anything to say what this NBA playoffs is going to be, I'm excited for this NBA playoffs. I mean, Cleveland and Boston atop of the East playing really good. Oklahoma and Houston's been playing really good atop of the Western Conference. I'm excited to see how far Oklahoma can go. Most wins in their franchise history at 65 and counting right now. But they also have the youngest team in the NBA. Is that going to prevent them from going too far? We're going to see a postseason duo of Luka and LeBron. How far can the Lakers go with that duo? How far can a healthy Kawhi Leonard and James Harden go in the postseason? And we all know Timothy Butler gets a different kind of breed when he's in the postseason. So how far can him and Curry go? This postseason, I'm intrigued for. I'm excited for. But I'm just absolutely so shocked by the Kings, by the Grizzlies, by the Nuggets firing their coaches. Especially the Kings and the Nuggets with a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks left into the season. Bamboozled, flabbergasted. But hey, the NBA, it's a business at the end of the day. All right, let's switch gears into baseball here. And not going to lie, it's been pretty down bad, pretty depressing as a Braves fan here. We started off 0-7. We lost 4 to the Padres. We lost 3 to the Dodgers. Jurickson Profar got suspended for 80 games from taking, PEDs. And then we had the news of Ronaldo Lopez going on the IL. He just had surgery. He's going to be out for 12 weeks. Like, it's been pretty bad as a Braves fan. But hey, Spencer Strider he should be on our roster hopefully in a week or two. He's making one more AAA start, assuming all goes well, and then he can be on our next road trip is what I'm hearing. We just got Sean Murphy back, and Sean Murphy came back and he belted a homer in his first run back. I think he had 4 ribbies. It's definitely the Sean Murphy we traded for back from Oakland a couple years back. So I'm excited if that's the Sean Murphy we can get this year. Obviously, last year was a stressful year for Sean Murphy and as a Braves fan because he got injured on opening day, was out for so long with that oblique injury, and then came back and just was never the type of player that we expected him to be and that we know him to be. Pretty sure he batted under 200 last year, and then obviously this year getting hit in the ribs, that just was so unfortunate for Sean Murphy. But he looked really good in AAA Ginwit, had a couple of homers there, pitched caught back-to-back games, and then came, like I said, hit a 3-run dinger for the Braves. That was huge, and had a RBI single later in the game. If that's the Sean Murphy that we're getting this year, I'm excited. I have things to look forward to. And then obviously, like I said, Spencer Strider is on the uprising. He should be back soon. Road to 500 strikeouts for him. Excited to watch that happen. And then Ronald Acuna Jr. We faced the Dodgers early May. I'm hoping that we can have Ronald Acuna Jr. back for that series. That would be fun to have him back. I think we might get him back during the Diamondback series in the later parts of this month. Crossing my fingers that I don't have that happens, but we'll see. But this MLB season, though, it's been very entertaining. Like, the NL West has been super entertaining. The Padres, the Giants, the Dodgers, all are 9-3, 8-3, 9-4. Are they all 3 of those teams going to be able to sustain that for the rest of the year? Probably 2 of them. I don't know if the Giants will, but that's been a very competitive. And then the Diamondbacks, they're only 6-6 right now, but they look like the Diamondbacks that made it to the World Series 2 years back. Like, Corbin Carroll's looks really good out there. He changed his batting stance a little bit. I like what I'm seeing out of the first baseman Josh Naylor, who they got this year. He seems to be meshing in and fitting in well there. Their pitching's not been as great as I expected it to be. Obviously, with the Zach Gallen, with the Merrill Kelly, and with the Corbin Burns, I expect that to get better later on in the year, though. And then, the Cubs have looked really good this year. Kyle Tucker has been freaking amazing. And, bro, the Cubs run differential, it's a plus 32 right now. They're not just dogging teams, bro. They are dogging teams with authority. It's absolutely crazy. The NL East, like I said, obviously my Braves are struggling. They're 2-8, unfortunately, the worst team in all of baseball right now with the White Sox. Never did I ever think I would put the Braves and the White Sox together in a category, but yet here we are in 2025. But hey, just got to win against the Phillies last night. I think if our offense can actually wake up after a game, because we had that really good game against the Marlins where we won 10-0, and then we've already been shut out 4 or 5 times this year, which is absolutely crazy. But I think if we just have consistency, and I obviously think once we get Strider and Acuna back, we'll be solid. But we just need to stay afloat until then. We got, but the Phillies and the Mets, those teams have been looking good. Phillies obviously took two games from the Dodgers, so that's impressive to do. Dodgers actually right now are on a 3-game losing streak. Absolutely love to see it. Preying on their downfall respectfully. The Angels, bro. The Angels are a shocking team right now. I love Ron Washington. Mike Trout's one of my favorite players of all time. So I hope they can keep this up right now. But sitting at a 7-3, and keep in mind this is after they started the season so abysmal, where they lost to the White Sox. They lost, I'm pretty sure, the first 2 games to the White Sox. That was embarrassing. Losing to the White Sox should be and is embarrassing. But the Angels have turned it around. Astros have been interesting because obviously Kyle Tucker is flourishing on the Cubs, and then Alex Bregman's been flourishing on the Red Sox. So I'm excited to see how that goes. The documentary article, don't know what we want to call it, about Jarren Duran, though, just came out for the Red Sox. I like when players are open and can share that because Jarren Duran's story is absolutely fascinating. What he went through emotionally, mentally, physically, and all that stuff, and then where he is and the guy he is today. It's just an amazing story, and it really makes you think of how we as humans treat people of not just the sports world but the world in general, and regardless of who you are and what you can be and how much money you're making, everybody still has feelings at the end of the day. Great read, great watch. If you guys haven't watched it, I highly recommend it. But the season, though, it's been absolutely amazing. Outside of, like I said, the Braves being as bad as they are, I do think we'll get back soon. But I want to talk about contracts in baseball. Contracts in baseball are absolutely insane. I remember like the first major contract that was given out. It was Mike Trout, obviously, and it was his 12-year, $430 million contract. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of money. But Mike Trout, I think he would have gone on like one of the best 5-year stretches of his league. I think he won 1 or 2 MVPs. Would have won like 3 to 5 if it wasn't for a guy named Miguel Cabrera. Led the Angels to the 1 seed one of the years when they won 98 games, I believe, and was the best player in all of baseball. And I'm like, 12 years, $430 million. I was shocked by it because I'm so used to basketball contracts and football contracts, where football contracts, unless you're like Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, you're not going to get over $100 million. Well, that was back then, but nowadays everybody and their mom gets over 100 million. But it was odd to see someone surpass 100 million, heck, 200 million even. And then obviously in basketball, you never really saw anybody pass that 150, $200 million contract. And to go straight from $200 million to $430 million, I was like, holy cow. And I mean, Trout, I can't say he's lived up to that contract. Obviously, like, his name in itself, he has, because he's Mike Trout, but because of injuries and his fact that he's not been healthy in the past 4 or 5 seasons, he probably hasn't lived up to the hype of that contract. But the type of player that we know him to be and the type of player that he is, at the end of the day, he probably is worth that contract still. But the contracts that we give out in Major League Baseball is just absolutely insane. Let's start off last year with the Dodgers. The Dodgers paid everybody and their mom. Starting off with 2 players. The Dodgers paid $1 billion to get 2 players on their team. They gave Shohei Ohtani a 10-year, $700 million contract. And then they deferred all of it, like, to freaking 2032. As for how they did that, I still don't know. Like, that's crazy that, like, literally Shohei's literally making $2 million for, like, the next 8 years because all of his money's deferred in his contract. Absolutely insane. But nonetheless, they gave him a 10-year, $700 million contract, and then shortly after gave Yamamoto, 12-year, $325 million? So between 2 players, literally just paid $1 billion. And what was shocking is Yamamoto hadn't even played Major League Ball yet. He'd been overseas, and he got a $325 million contract without pitching a single pitch in the Major Leagues. $325 million. Like, absolutely insane. And then there was a lot of speculation on, like, okay, what's Shohei going to get? Because obviously we knew he's going to get a lot of money, can play on both sides of the ball, can pitch and obviously play the outfield. I was firmly in the ballpark of like 600 million. I'm like 300 per, right? 300 for being such a good hitter, maybe 200 for being such a good pitcher. And, the Yankees blew that out of the water, giving him 700 million to be able to play 2 positions. And then the following year, Juan Soto, this last year, gets a 15-year, $765 million. And bro doesn't even pitch. Bro only plays the outfield, and he's kind of ass at it. Like, yes, bro's in the prime of it. He's 26 years old. He's probably in the prime of his career and has the best plate discipline in all of Major League Baseball. But, like, bro's ass in the outfield, and he's getting $765 million to hit the ball. I find probably in the next 2-3 years is when I would assume Juan Soto goes permanently as a DH, or everyday DH and occasional outfielder when you need it. But as long as we have a universal DH, I see Juan Soto becoming a pretty permanent DH sooner than later. But bro gets $765 million because he can hit the ball, and he's one of the best at hitting the ball. And I'm just like, that's absolutely insane that we went from Mike Trout, 12 years, $430 million, to Shohei Ohtani, 10 years, $700 million, to Juan Soto, 15 years, $765 million. Like, I saw this thing as I was doomscrolling TikTok the other day, as I always do, and it said how much money Juan Soto makes every 37 seconds. And it came out to be like $1,942. My bro makes like a monthly salary in a minute. And I'm just like, that is insane. Freaking, okay, maybe not a month salary, but like some people's month salary. My bro makes that in literally a minute. And I'm just like, that's crazy to think. And then this recently we had two contract negotiations, 2 deals that worked out. Jackson Merrill of the San Diego Padres got a 9-year, was it $160 or $165 million extension from the Padres? And then the Toronto Blue Jays actually did something. They extended Vladdy for 14 years, 500 M's. $500 million. We now have 3 players in the Major League Baseball that make over $500 million. Vladdy, Juan Soto, Shohei Ohtani. And like, and going into this year, okay, let me rewind for a second. Going into this year, I thought Juan Soto was I didn't think he was going to top Shohei Ohtani's contract. I said there's no shot. Like, Shohei Ohtani plays both sides of the ball. He pitches and he hits. He is going to be the highest paid athlete for the foreseeable future. I'm like, I firmly thought Juan Soto was going to get $500 million. I even advocated for Juan Soto to get $600 million. My prediction was he would have got an 11-year, $611 million deal from the Red Sox. That was my prediction. But I was like, I wouldn't pay him more than $650 million. And I'm like, he's good, but I'm like, I don't think he's worth more than $650 million. And then obviously Steve Cohen and the Mets blew that out of the water by giving him 765 M's of those things. And I'm just like, for a guy who just plays one side of the ball, and like I said, is mediocre ass at best in his defense in right. Like he's not a good defender, and you don't want to risk him being one of the greater defenders, diving to make a catch and hurting his arm or hurting, a part of his body. So you don't really want him probably in the outfield because of those reasons. And he plays right field, and he's still ass at it. And he gets $765 million. It's just absolutely insane. And then there's the Jackson Merrill. Jackson Merrill is a young, rising superstar who he looks and he sees New York Mets team that gave, let's look at them a couple years back. They gave Jacob deGrom, what was it, a 4-year, $280 million extension, something like that. Then they brought in Justin Verlander, gave him $40 million annually. They literally spent $400 million on 2 pitchers, and they didn't even make the postseason. You just spent $400 million on 2 players and didn't even make the postseason. And then we see teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers, who Mookie Betts is making $300+ million. Freddie Freeman's making $100+ million. You have Teoscar Hernandez making $100+ million. You have Blake Snell making $100+ million. You have Yamamoto, who's making $300+ million. You have Shohei Ohtani, who's making $700+ million. Like, you have so many players on the roster that Jackson Merrill's like, damn, like if we want to compete with anybody, we gotta be able to sign some people over so the Dodgers don't get them, so to be competitive with them. And I love this for Jackson Merrill, because he came out and he said he knows what his worth is. He knows that he probably could have went out and got more, but at the end of the day, he wants to bring a championship to San Diego. He wants to do whatever he can to help that team win. And he's at that point, $165 million is enough money for him. He can get endorsement money, whatever it is. He probably can get more money in that way. He wants to be able to bring the Padres best chance to win and get them the best players possible. And keep in mind, this is the Padres team that is really good. It has a Luis Ariz. It has a Fernando Tatis Jr. It has a Manny Machado. It has a Dylan Cease on their team. Like, this is a team that gave the Dodgers a run for their money. What was it? Just last year? Not year before or whatever? And so I really like what Jackson Merrill did here, and I like kind of banking on the team. He's not really banking on himself like Juan Soto and Vlad. They're banking on themselves. They bet on themselves to be better. Like, Juan Soto has bet on himself from the get-go, from the first contract negotiation. He turned down, what was it, a 12-year, $340 million deal from the Nationals. He turned one down from the Padres. He turned one down, obviously, from the Yankees, and he bet on himself, and it worked because he ended up getting $765 million. So, yes, that works. But I love it when we have such team-oriented players who they ultimately want to bring that championship. They want to get the hardware at the end of the day. And then there's the Vladdy one, obviously. 14 years, $500 million is insane, because for 3 reasons. I'm shocked the Blue Jays did it. I'm shocked that he got $500 million, and I'm shocked that it's the length of the contract that it is. Those are my 3 reasons. Okay, so Vladdy and the Blue Jays have been in contract negotiations talks for 2 years now, and Vladdy had a number in mind. Specifically this last offseason, they didn't reach an agreement because Vladdy had a number in mind, the Blue Jays had a number in mind, and from what I heard, there was nowhere close to it. And Vladdy came out and said, hey, you guys don't like my number. If you don't like who I am, if you don't like what I have done for this franchise, I'm going to go talk to the other 29 teams. I might not leave, but let me at least go test my value, test to Saquon Barkley type shit. See what I can get out there. And we haven't seen the Blue Jays give a big contract to anybody outside of George Springer, and I guess you can make an argument for Anthony Santander recently, but outside of that, we haven't seen the Blue Jays give out a mass contract, a big ass contract to anybody. And I straight up, once they didn't get anything done this offseason, I'm like, Vladdy's leaving. I thought he was going to the Red Sox. I'm like, I wouldn't be shocked if he was going to the Yankees. Those teams are kind of heavily pursuing him, but I'm like, those teams have the money to give Vladdy what he wants, so he's going there. But the Blue Jays came back and said, just kidding, bro, here's $500 million. And it was enough for Vladdy to stay. And I just bamboozled by this contract because I don't think Vladdy's a great player. He's done a lot for the Blue Jays organization as far as he's been there. But I can't say Vladdy is confidently worth $500 million. Heck, I can't even say Juan Soto is worth $765 million. I will say the only person who's worth their contract in the league right now is probably Shohei Ohtani. Shohei can play both sides of the ball. We haven't really seen him pitch, obviously, since he's gone to LA, so we don't really know how well he can pitch since he's had that Tommy John surgery and who he's going to be as a pitcher since then. But we've already seen the type of pitcher he was with the Angels and the type of hitter he was with the Angels. So we already have a good understanding for Shohei Ohtani and who he can be as a pitcher and as a batter. So I'm okay with giving Shohei Ohtani $700 million because he's probably worth that at the end of the day because he plays both sides of the ball. But I'm not okay with giving Juan Soto $765 million. I'm not okay with giving Vlad $500 million. I think both of those, Juan Soto is a little bit more deserving and it makes sense, but I think both of those were grossly overpaid. And then, like I said, then we see contracts like a Jackson Merrill, where he is pennies on the dime, pennies on the bargain, 9 years, $165 million. That they basically got him for pancakes. That in baseball terms, that's they got him for a side of pancakes. And it's just wild because it makes me wonder because of what I thought during the Trout era and Trout getting his 12-year, $430 million contract. It makes me wonder, like Ronald Acuna Jr. Obviously, he's my favorite player, Braves player. He signed, I think it was in 2019, 2021, something like that. He signed like his 8-year, 7-year, 9-year, $100 million contract, which was like super low for like who Ronald Acuna Jr. is. Obviously, having won in that MVP award too. Like also pennies on the bargain. Like great deal for Acuna Jr. But Ozzy Albies that year too signed a 7-year, $35 million extension too, like some crazy shit. I'm like, that's really good. Those are players who want to be here. But like if they were to actually go test their value, specifically Ronald Acuna Jr., granted, I know he's not been healthy and he's had his 2 injury scares in the past, but he probably can get $400 million, easily $200 million, probably $300 million. I would guess $400 million. He's like that's the talent that he has, and you know, I wonder what type of contract he would get if he were to go into that because he is upcoming in free agency here soon. Bobby Witt Jr., Elly De La Cruz. I am so curious to see the type of contracts that those players get. Bobby Witt Jr. being the phenom that he's been at such a young age. Elly De La Cruz being not just to be able to hit for speed and hit for power, but then the type of defense player that he is, and then he also can play second, short, and third for you, so he's very versatile too. And then Gunnar Henderson too. If we are seeing Vlad get $500 million contract, what is Gunnar Henderson gonna get? What is Elly De La Cruz gonna get? And what is Bobby Witt Jr. gonna get? Because I would argue those are the next 3 faces of our league, but like there's still other players in between. And it's just so crazy. Like I said, the contracts that we give out in sports in general, but in baseball specifically, it's just so mind-boggling because when I first got into watching sports and everything, no contract was more than $200 million contract was absolutely insane. And nowadays, we just see it thrown out like cotton candy, left and right. You want 200 million, you want 200 million, you're getting 200 million, you're getting 200 million, you got 200 million, you get, like, it's crazy. It makes me wonder the world of baseball as we get into the future, the world of sports in general as we get into the future of that. Baseball contracts, though, absolutely insane. Sorry for the rant on baseball contracts, but just had to talk about that specifically and kind of get my thoughts on that. But baseball is here. I'm so excited, so ready for the Braves to come back with Acuna healthy, with Strider healthy. Now that we have Sean Murphy, we're gonna hopefully sweep the series against the Phillies, and we'll get back onto the winning track. But baseball is lit. So excited. It only can get up from here as a Braves fan, right? Like we started off so bad that it only can get better as a Braves fan. That's my hope. That's my baseball talk for this week. Baseball contracts, though, absolutely insane. You guys let me know your thoughts.